Today was the same as every other Friday. I went drinking with my friends, danced at the club, and blasted music in the car as we drove back to our apartment. But this time, the day didn't end the same. We didn't binge watch Netflix until we fell asleep, no. Because in my drunken condition, I noticed the red robot light, and by the time I stepped on the brakes, it was too late. I felt myself losing consciousness, and then suddenly, everything went dark and silent. But then, I woke up, and it was almost as if I had been in a dream. There was brightness all around me. I was barefoot, and the surface upon which I walked was soft, like a cloud. My footsteps echoed with each step, and then I noticed two figures standing behind a pulpit in the distance. The devil really thinks he can get away with things like that? One of them laughed. It was a female.
Does he still think he can defeat God?
The other laughed, a male this time, and the closer I got to them, the more I noticed the large and majestic wings they had. My heart skipped a fearful beat, and several scenarios ran through my head. Could I be dead? Hello? I stammered. They both turned to me, noticing me for the first time. Sorry about that, the female apologized. I'm Angelica, and this here is Angelo, she said, introducing the male beside her. Where am I? I asked. Oh, right. You're dead, honey, Angelica said, making my heart drop to the pits of my stomach. Dead. I was dead. That car crash. It had killed me. I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. Did that kind of stuff happen in the afterlife? All right, Angelo, let's get to work. Grab the book of life.
Got it.
Angelo clicked, and a thick golden book suddenly appeared on the pulpit. He looked at me.
Okay, could you please tell us your name?
Grace, I answered absently. Grace Evans.
Any middle name?
No.
Birthday?
15 August. They both began to scan the contents of the book, flipping back and forth. My name had to be in there. I was a Christian, after all. I knew about Jesus. I believed in the afterlife, and I was a good person. I didn't steal or murder or do anything of that sort, so there was no need to panic. But then when they both looked at me with sadness in their eyes, my hope fizzled and my panic doubled. What is it? I asked. Angelo clicked again, making the book disappear, and Angelica approached me, taking both of my hands in hers. She rubbed her thumb across my hand in a comforting gesture before telling me, Your name isn't in there, Grace. What? What do you mean my name's not in there? I mean, Angelica paused, looking back at Angelo. There really is no easy way to put this, is there? Angelo shook his head and walked toward me, softly saying,
You're not going to heaven, Grace.
No. I shook my head in denial, taking several steps back. No, there must be a mistake. There's a mistake. Look again.
Grace.
Look again, I shouted, desperate. My name has to be in there. It has to be. Grace, Angelica tried. I didn't do anything wrong, I screamed. The light surrounding me slowly began to darken, and the smell of burning overcame my senses. I heard the crackle of flames in the distance, and the temperature around me got hotter and hotter by the second. No, I gasped. This was it. This was truly it. I was going to hell. Breathing became difficult, and as the temperature got hotter, the tears streaming down my cheeks began to evaporate. There was no liquid in hell, after all, and that included tears. No, I cried, desperate. At least tell me why. The crackle suddenly stopped, and the heat dissipated, and when I opened my eyes again, the darkness had disappeared, and Angelica was standing before me again. Why? Yes, why? Angelica sighed, but clicked her fingers, and a file appeared in her hands. I'm not supposed to do this, but let's see. She opened the file, scrolling through it, and her contemplative expression slowly turned into one of pity and sorrow. "Grace, darling," Angelica breathed, shaking her head. She looked at me. "God never knew you." "What? What do you mean he never knew me?" I sobbed. "He's an all-knowing God, isn't he? And I attend to church every Sunday, and Grace," Angelica cut me off. "God knew of you, but he never knew you. You never had a relationship with him," she told me, reading my file. "You did not seek him out. He was always there, waiting for you to choose him, to listen to him, to take his hand, but you kept walking away." "And why didn't he force me to come to him?" I cried, desperate and full of regret. This couldn't be. Angelica looked at me, her brows raised. "You wanted God to force you to love him? No, Grace. You are your own person. You were free to do what you wanted. You were free to live how you wanted to live, and you did. But it seems that you used that freedom to gratify your fleshly desires." My breaths turned into choked sobs, and not because I couldn't accept what was happening, but because she wasn't wrong. I spent more time on social media than I did reading the Bible. I spent more time drunk and partying than speaking to God. I uttered more swear words than I uttered praises to him. I had 18 years to choose him, but I didn't. He was always an afterthought. And now it was too late. The 18 years I had been given, I spent them irresponsibly. Now I was going to spend eternity in hell. All on my own. My friends weren't going to follow me. My riches weren't going to follow me. I'd spent all my time on energy and things that didn't matter, that I didn't have time for what truly mattered. "You made your choice, honey," Angelica said softly, "and you didn't choose him." But I gave my life to him," I whimpered. "Doesn't that count for something?" "You did," Angelica nodded. "But you didn't live like you belonged to him. You lived like you belonged to the world. You claimed to know God, but you lived as if he didn't exist." But I didn't commit any crimes or anything." "But you only ever spoke to God when you wanted something from him, Grace," Angelica told me. "He wanted a relationship with you, but you never saw him as a father or a friend. You only saw him as a genie of sorts." "No," I shook my head, unable to accept my fate. The tears started streaming down my cheeks again. "And it seems you were ashamed of him too, Grace," Angelica said, reading through my file. "No," I said vehemently. No, that's not true. That can't be true." "You never spoke of him to the people around you, not once," Angelica told me. "You never led anyone to Christ, Grace. Was he not important enough for you to share with others? Is this gift of eternal life not valuable enough? Did you think his kingdom wasn't worthy enough to speak about?" "No," I shouted. "Of course not." "Then why didn't you speak about him?" she asked carefully. "Not even to your friends. Why?" I don't know." I stumbled over my words. "I don't know." Angelica clicked and my file disappeared from her hands. She took my hands instead, looking at me intently. "Do you understand why you're not in the book of life now?" "No," I cried. "It's not fair, okay? He sent his son to die for me. It can't just end like this. I can't go to hell." "Grace," Angelica said softly, "God does love you, but you didn't return his love for you. He sent his son to save you, and yet you still didn't choose him, and it pained him. You know, it pained him to see his child, his beautiful child who he created in his image, who he chose to save, choose the world over him," she told me. "You lived as if the world was so much better than his love and his gift and his promises to you." "Then why make the world the way it is?" I argued. "If the world was horrible, then everyone would choose him." "Oh, honey," Angelica's voice broke. "The world is horrible. But if you loved God and not the world, you would have noticed that. You would have noticed the wickedness, the cruel way the rich treat the poor, the corruption and the poverty, the lack of compassion and abundance of crime, and you would have noticed the hatred and all the other horrible sins people commit. as well as the way people suffer. Okay, I shouted. Okay, I get it. Every decision has consequences, Angelica sighed. Just like your decision to drink and drive. You know that because of your foolishness, you died before your time? Drinking and driving? You knew better. I know, and I regret it, okay? I confessed. I knew there was a heaven and a hell, and I know I could have done better, but... My words were swallowed up by my sobs. My whole body was shaking now. Grace, Angelica said, do you understand now? I do. You also understand why it says he didn't know you? Yes, I answered softly. Because I didn't choose him. I ignored him and ran away from him and didn't pursue him. My eyes were shut, but I felt the tears on my cheeks drying as the fire started to crackle again. He would have loved to get to know you, Angelica said. The fire scorched my skin, but I didn't burn, and I let out a piercing cry. But I could barely hear my own voice above the roar of the flames and the screams of the others who had made the same mistake as me by not choosing God. Don't make the same mistake as me.